All right, folks, so here it is, plain and clear. We've been talking about it, right? There are several things that we knew would end up taking place in the last days with respect to Israel, with respect to Russia, and most definitely with respect to the United States of America. Now, the United States of America, we know, is not going to really have much of a voice in the last days because it will have been diminished to nothing, because we know there won't be any real superpower outside of what we know with respect to Russia. Now, the thing we know about Israel is they will also grow weaker. We are not talking about weak to the point where they are indefensible. However, we do know that Russia will go stronger. Now, we are seeing all of that happen right now. And of course, we know that Israel is not indefensible because when Russia chooses to attack Israel, God will, in essence, according to Ezekiel 39, defend Israel. So these are all things that we know, and this is a given. And we continue to see story after story after story after story that supports the biblical narrative and what we know about the future. Now, I am looking at a story right now that says Russians fire on Israeli Air Force craft in Syria for the first time. Now, for those of you that don't know what happened, there was an S-300 battery missile launcher. Now, we know that there have been many of those that have been floating around in Syria. Russia's been talking about it. Putin was talking about those assets being on the ground for a long time. As a matter of fact, there are some warning shots that were sort of fired off the bow of some of those S-300 units, basically saying we are defending Syrian airspace, so all of you back off. And of course, that's not a surprise because we knew that Russia would have to, in essence, treat Syria as sovereign territory in order to be able to strengthen its military position to accomplish the attack that we read about in Ezekiel chapter 38. So this shouldn't be a surprise. However, in recent days, they did, in essence, launch an S-300 series of missiles at Israeli Air Force craft. Now, what is interesting, I want to say this before people get carried away with the story, it did not achieve radar lock, but that is not the point. The point is they were fired upon. And they were fired upon, by the way, supposedly defending Syrian, or shall we say Russian airspace. But understand, S-300s don't get shot off on accident by a bunch of Syrian yahoos that don't know what they're doing. These have to be fired by Russian officers, and there's no way it can go anywhere else. So this was an act by Russia on behalf of Syrian interests against Israel to assert its superiority within the context of that particular region. Now, that becomes significant because we know one day, per Ezekiel 38, Russia, with a conglomerate of other nations, will attack Israel. And we must see the condition of Russia's strength growing and Israel's strength somewhat weakening, which we are beginning to see evidence of. And the United States, of course, being inconsequential in that nothing has been said. So, folks, there you have it. More and more evidence that the biblical narrative is correct. Jesus is coming soon, folks. Don't forget this one. It's a big deal. God bless you.